Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about staying warm in the cold weather. Sometimes, invariably, when you are traveling, you will get stuck in really cold temperatures. And today, out of necessity, I needed to go back up to Pennsylvania to take care of some important things, and a cold front moved in. It's going to be under 20 for a couple days. I mean, it might get up as high as maybe 25 or maybe low 30, but it's going to certainly be in the teens here overnight. And when you get into the teens and you're living in a vehicle, things can get a little interesting. Those insulated covers on my windows back there, they do a really good job of keeping in the heat. They've also been known to freeze to the windows when it gets too cold. You might hear in the background my heater is running. Pretty hot. Now, in the super cold, I could use up to a quarter tank of diesel fuel. Although usual normal use of the heater when it's reasonable temperatures, that tank can last easily a couple of weeks. But I made sure today to stop by, top that off, and then I'm carrying some extra fuel with me as well. Now, it's important also to have a backup heater in place. I'm actually staying somewhere that has like propane buddies and stuff, so if something were to break down in the middle of the night or something, I could, run off of propane for a little bit. Now, you don't want to run off of propane for normal heat a lot because you do need to ventilate it, and it does produce moisture. And is a little bit more dangerous because there's open flame. The diesel furnace, dry heat diesel furnace, does not have an open flame. Now, let's talk about some of the considerations that you need to take. You have to protect a few things in your van or RV, whatever it is. Water sources is one of those. Clean water and wastewater. If you have tanks on the outside and you're at 17 degrees, everything's going to freeze. That's why I have no tanks on the outside of the vehicle. Everything is inside where it's more subject to staying warm. Now, they might get colder or whatnot depending on where they are. But whatever you do, you want to make sure that particularly if you have plumbing, the plumbing is not freezing. If you don't have plumbing and you're just using water bottles, make sure they're not so overfilled that they would burst in the event they freeze. I'm not planning on getting that cold in here because the heater is going to keep it nice and warm, but the reality is I have to be cognizant of my water. Now, if I do want to make sure I get some really colder water, I could actually fill up my water bottles and set them over by the van door, and I could actually get something that freezes, toss them in my refrigerator, help the efficiency of the refrigerator for a couple of days. Why not, right? The other thing you have to protect is your batteries. If you're running lithium batteries and your lithium batteries get too cold, you can damage them if you charge them up. Now, sometimes what I'll do if it's that cold out and if I'm not completely confident on it, I will actually shut off the solar panels until the morning so I can assess the temperature of the batteries. Being as it's going to get down to like 17 and it's going to be windy, I might very well do that tonight. Although I did talk about previously a system that I came up with that does keep the batteries pretty warm. Of course, if you have heated batteries, you don't have that problem, but please test those batteries thoroughly before subjecting them to the cold. In my case, since I have custom built batteries, I can build those components in, but I am not regularly in a place where it gets cold. I don't seek out the cold. I'm not a skier. I'm not a fan of going out where it is getting cold out. So for me, I'm not going to worry about the extra expense of cold proofing my batteries. I'll just go ahead and do that manually. So for me, I have a system in place here that's turned on. Basically, I'm blowing a fan pulling cabin air, which is much warmer, back into the battery area because there is a lot of draftiness in the battery area, and I'm not sure if it's coming across the floor, which I think it is coming across the floor and entering the battery compartment, or if it's coming in from the back doors and seeping in, because they're kind of in a place where they sort of share the trunk space, but not really. Regardless, I have it kind of figured out, so it should be fine. But I do have to be careful whenever it gets this cold out, especially for long sustained times, that I'm not letting the batteries get too cold. Also, make sure that if you are going somewhere where it's going to get cold, make sure you have enough food and water and other resources. Now, where I'm at right now, I'm effectively mooch docking, so if there's like whole thing gets bad, I just shut off the solar power so the batteries can't get any charge, and I go inside the house here. But if they have a power outage, like sometimes happens, I'll certainly come out here. I don't seem to have power struggles. But regardless, make sure that you have some plans in place. If you're somewhere that can get cold and it gets too treacherous to get out of, make sure you have a couple weeks of food on hand. So I keep, mostly I want to eat fresh food. I do not like eating processed food, but I have found what I do is I keep the fresh food there, and then I have a bunch of processed shelf-stable food with me as well, so I can always throw my stuff into those and use that in the event I find myself in a pinch. So I actually easily have a couple weeks extra of food on hand, whether that's going to be, I have some oatmeal up here, I have ramen noodles, I have Chef Boyardee stuff, I have some cans of soup, and a few other miscellaneous items out there as well. As far as water, I generally keep in excess of 10 gallons of water. I have like 10 gallons in my 2 jugs over here, plus my 1 gallon overflow bottle. And then I have water bottles and things like that as well. So make sure that you have those plans in place. And then if you set everything up correctly, yeah, you can actually very easily winter out. And in my case, it's going to get warm in about 2 days. It'll be back up even into the 60s. In 2 days, it's going to be up into the 60s. But for a couple days, I'm just going to run the heater a lot. I'm going to keep an eye on the fuel levels. I'm going to just keep an eye on everything else, make sure the batteries are always at temp, and make sure the water's not freezing, and I'll be perfectly fine. So those are some of the considerations that I do when I am going to be in a colder area, and there may be other precautions you might want to take based on your individual build. Sorry, it's about 1:30 or 12:30 in the morning, it looks like, by my clock, and I need to get some sleep. But anyway, I want to leave this quick video with you guys. Thanks for following along. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. And we will see you a little bit further down the road.